Hi, my name is Olivia Lewis. Today we're going to be talking about the movement of butterfly stroke in swimming. All right, so a little bit of background about the stroke. The creator of it varies. The International Swimming Hall of Fame, though, credits Australian swimmer Sydney Cavill as the first to perform the full stroke. Swimmers attempting to improve their breaststroke performance accidentally created parts of the butterfly. Therefore, Cavill was the first to put all these different parts together. Basically, breaststrokers were using um, the butterfly arm movement with their breaststroke kick. This stroke is also known as the dolphin stroke because of the kicking pattern, which resembles a dolphin's movement, like tail movement. It's the most complex stroke that often accounts for most swimmer injuries, and the stroke is broken down into different phases and movements to propel forward. There's the pull and the kick movement, which we'll get into. All right, so phases of movement for one full stroke. It should be noted that the arms and legs move in unison throughout the stroke, and that there are 2 dolphin kicks for every 1 complete stroke. For the preparatory phase, there's 1 dolphin kick. The swimmer pushes off in a streamlined position to cover more distance. They can go up to, I believe, 15 meters, and then they have to come up and perform the stroke if it's competition. The swimmer will begin the stroke by pulling their arms down, thumbs sliding across the hips, along the hips, and then they prepare to lift their body just barely above the water. Then the dolphin kick helps to lift them a little bit. The catch phase has the second dolphin kick, which provides enough propulsion against the water that allows the arms to come up above the waterline and be brought out in front of the swimmer in what's known as an arm sweep. Um, with the head horizontal to the surface of the water and the chin just still in contact, the swimmer will be able to take a breath. If the head is tilted any higher, they'll lose their center of gravity and start sinking into the water. For the recovery phase, the arms are brought back down into the water, thumbs sliding along the hips again. This prepares them for another full stroke. So you can see all that happening here in this diagram. The swimmer's head is a little bit too high here when he comes for a breath, but yeah. All right, so wave-like pattern. Basically, this diagram and the quote go hand in hand together. The diagram explains this quote, which basically says that if the swimmer drops their legs, arms, and slash or torso too low into the water, their stroke will become inefficient as they'll lose their center of gravity. The center of gravity helps to move forward in a pattern that resembles a smooth wave-like pattern. It deflects the water over and around the body to maintain greater forward momentum. It's almost like how pushing against the water um, creates tension and it's harder to move forward. So when you're just barely in the water, like in the lower half of this diagram, you're moving faster because you're not fighting the water as much. Whereas here, when you dip deeper into the water, you have to push back up somehow with all your body strength, which can also lead to injury. All right, so muscles that are used in the upper portion of the stroke. For arm adduction, the pectoralis major, latissimus dorsi, and the trapezius are the primary movers for the upper body. This means that they pull, they're the main muscles that are responsible for pulling the body through the water. For elbow flexion and extension, you have the biceps brachii, brachialis, and triceps brachii. For wrist flexion, all these muscles here work as neutralizers for the wrist to maintain flexion through the water, because if it loses that while pushing against the water, this can lead to injury and a harder time performing the stroke. Muscles for the core that are used. The entire core is engaged when you're performing the stroke. This provides the stability for the stroke. These muscles act as antagonists for the back muscles because without their engagement, lower back injuries are highly likely to occur. All right, muscles of the lower body that are used in this stroke. For hip flexion, the iliacus, psoas major, rectus femoris, and the sartorius are the key muscles for propulsion. They help with to replicate the wave-like pattern / dolphin pattern of the kick. For hip extension, you have the gluteus maximus, rectus femoris. Knee extension, quadriceps. And plantar flexion, you have the gastrocnemius. the soleus and the plantaris. All right, for skilled and unskilled performance. An unskilled performer will have many flaws in their technique, such as they'll lift their head too high out of the water, they'll bend their knees too much in dolphin kick, bending the elbow and arm sweep, inconsistent breathing patterns, and lack of streamline off the wall. Most of these examples will cause the stroke to slow down immensely and for them to lose their center of gravity. So here in this diagram picture, you can see that the swimmer's arms are way too lifted above the water, which they're going to be caused to bend when the swimmer sweeps forward. And you can also tell by the positioning of his back that he's way too low. His lower muscles and half are way too deep into the water, which will be harder to pull back up. All right, common injuries and conditions for butterfly swimmers. These happen from overtraining, poor technique, not stretching, decreased strength, and a variety of other ways. Common injuries are swimmer's shoulder, swimmer's knee, shoulder dislocation. This usually happens in dives. Lower back pain, so when the core isn't engaged properly, or in a bad dive. Biceps tendonitis, and swimmer's ear, which is just an infection of the outer ear. But swimmer's shoulder is the top cause of the top injury for butterfly swimmers. All right, exercises for better performance. Training should be practiced both in and out of the water, because in the water, the stroke techniques are able to be worked out in drills. So some examples of drills are the single arm, 2 single, 1 full, and dolphin kicks at the board. 2 single, 1 full is you're bringing your right arm up for a pull, and then your left arm up for a pull, and then you perform 1 full sweep. And then for dry land, that's the opportunity to strengthen the individual muscles. So bench press will strengthen the pectoralis major, whereas pull-ups will strengthen your latissimus dorsi, and then lunges will strengthen quads. So it helps with all parts of the stroke. And that is it.